Hi friends, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam of Samantha's Doodles. I run a laser file shop and I have over 400 different designs for laser makers. Some of my most popular designs are my patterns, which I offer in engraving and scoring options. Today we're going to be talking about scoring. First and foremost, I will define the technique for you. We're going to review scoring in comparison to engraving. We'll discuss the key factors of each and what helps identify them, and we'll address a few misconceptions about the difference between scoring and engraving. I will talk about why scoring is preferred by so many laser makers, and I'll show you some statistics from different projects I've run to help you get an idea of the way you can save time with these projects. Last but not least, we're going to chat about how to maximize your time and profit. Instead of just creating new icons for every single design that you whip up, we'll talk about how you can use the same set of icons to create an entire suite of products, which helps you expand your offerings, and it will help you save on design time in addition to the quicker print times that it will give you. What is scoring? Scoring is a technique that's used to burn a line or group of lines into your material. The laser head follows the stroke or outline of your vector path, and it has a fixed width that is the same as your laser beam. The goal of scoring is not to cut through your material, but instead to mark the design into it, and you want to be sure that it doesn't cut all the way through. Depending on what brand of laser you have, you might use different terminology. Glowforge does refer to these as scoring, which is great because you can go in and assign your settings and it already defaults to your proof grade settings for scoring, and then you can adjust as needed from there. For lasers that work with light burn, it's just referred to as a low powered cut. As with any laser function, obviously your settings are going to vary depending on your machine, your material, and your desired look. But scoring has a pretty consistent look once you get your settings down, and it should be a nice dark burn into that material based on your design. If you follow me on my social media, or if you've shopped from my Etsy shop before, you know that scoring patterns are one of the things that kind of like helped me gain traction in the file designer community. I started with engraving designs, but a few people told me that they hated how long they took, which I completely understand, especially as someone who started with a Glowforge. Engraving designs can take a really long time to print. I knew there had to be a quicker way, so I taught myself Adobe Illustrator. I learned how to use it on the iPad, and I haven't looked back since. There are a few major differences when it comes to scoring and engraving. Scoring burns the outline of a vector shape, which can be marked by applying a stroke to your line or your shape, while engraving burns away the fill or the inside of a colored shape. So for scoring, you don't need to have closed shapes, but for engraving you do. So that's one of the big differences in how you're going to set up your files. For scoring files, if you do single line designs in a vector program, you can just compound path all your shapes together, and they can be a bunch of individual lines that come together to make up your design. Whereas with engraving, you have to have a closed shape or something that you've done an image trace on so that it does have that filled area that the laser can burn. The resulting look of these two techniques is different as well. Scoring is typically darker regardless of your settings, and engraving can range from like a light brown tan color to a dark brown, almost black. It depends on your materials and your settings, obviously. Scoring is a thinner line and it's consistent throughout your projects. It's the same width as your laser beam, whereas engraving can be used to fill in larger areas and it can capture variations in line width. The printing process is different as well. For scoring, the laser moves in all different directions and can jump around between different areas of your design. Engraving prints by burning horizontally as it moves up your project, so it typically takes longer, and scoring is known as the more efficient of the two techniques. Because I have customers that prefer both looks, I typically do versions of all of my designs in both styles. So this makes for a really easy comparison for you all. I'm gonna put some examples on the screen and you can see the difference between the two. You'll notice that the scored versions are typically darker. They have thinner lines and they might appear a little bit more crisp based on the way that the laser performs each function. The engraved designs have a richer color, they have filled in areas, and they have more texture and that detailing. One of the biggest benefits of scoring designs is the speed and efficiency. I wanted to share with you a couple different projects to give you an idea of the difference between engraving something and scoring it. Here is an example. I did a dog pattern, and I did both the engraved version and the scoring version, and the time difference was insane. Obviously they have a slightly different look to them. Like the scoring design isn't going to have the same filled in details that the other one does. But the engraved version took an hour and 10 minutes and the scoring version took 21 minutes. I know this might not seem like something absolutely crazy, but imagine that you got an order for 10 signs with these backers and you had to sit there for 10 hours while your laser engraved it. On the other hand, you could score it, save yourself a ton of time, and have a similar look with less wear and tear on your laser, a quicker turnaround time for you, and ultimately more profit in your pocket because time is money. Which design would you rather print multiple times and have to fill orders for? Another example, I had an ornament at the start of the pandemic do relatively well, and I sold over 200 copies. It was a cute little panda, and it said Year of the Pandemic because I was trying to do a pun and, you know, make it a little bit cute, something to commemorate the craziness that we had had. Each ornament took 8 minutes to engrave and cut on my Glowforge. So I sold 231 panda ornaments. At 8 minutes each, that's 1,848 minutes, or 30 hours and 48 minutes. That's more than an entire day's worth of wear and tear on my laser and time that I had to be hands-on at my laser putting together these ornaments. If I had done a scored version, there's no guarantee that it would have sold the same way because it does look a little bit different, but it could have cut down my print time. I'm just going to estimate based on some other scored ornaments I've run and say if it took 2 minutes per ornament, if I had done a scored version, I would have been able to print 231 ornaments in 462 minutes, which is 7 hours and 42 minutes, or less than a single 8-hour workday. I don't know about you, but I would much rather work one solid workday than over an entire day straight to get 200 ornaments out the door. Not only is it quicker turnaround time, less manual hours that you have to put in, but it's also less time that your laser is running, less time that you have to sit there and observe it, and it's just makes everything more profitable in the long run to be able to get your products out that much quicker. There are a few things to note. Obviously, scoring does look different than engraving. There are no filled in areas, and the varied line thickness that you get with engraving doesn't translate the same way. You can still accomplish detail, you just have to experiment and come up with, maybe you like doing cross hatching or line shading, or even if you were going to do shapes that would be outlined like circles or something like that, you can still accomplish details. It just has a different look to it. And obviously there's a market for both. There is so much that you can do with this technique. You just have to get comfortable putting together those designs. Simpler designs will score faster. The more detail you add, the longer that time will be. Obviously, the dog project from earlier had a lot of detail, so it took 20 minutes, whereas a plain striped backer might take 3 minutes to print. The biggest misconception that I see when I see people working with scored designs is that scoring and engraving design is the same thing. I don't want people to hate me for saying this. Not all designs are created equal when it comes to scoring. Designs that are intended to be engraved often don't translate the same way as if they had been optimized for scoring. You might see the term double line when people are talking about scoring. This comes up most often when someone tries to score a design that was either A, meant to be engraved, or B, has not been fully optimized for this technique. I drew these scoring icons that we're going to be working with today, and then I redrew them to engrave. And then I showed you in the middle what it looks like when you score the engraving file instead of a file that has been specifically designed to be scored. What this does is it gives you that thicker double outline look, and because the shape isn't filled in, it's going to be noticeable and it's going to look a little bit off. If you like this look, more power to you. Absolutely get more bang for your buck. Use all of your engraving designs both ways. Score them, have them go faster. But if you want your designs to look like they were meant for this, it's worth putting in the time to either find files that were optimized for scoring or learn how to create your own. So if you want to start with scoring, here are some of my tips. 1, use a dedicated vector program. I like Adobe Illustrator. I think it's the industry standard. It's worth learning. It's worth the subscription, especially if you either do a lot of design work or if you plan on eventually selling files. Use the outline view mode in whatever vector program you're using to make sure that your anchor points all line up and that there are no weird scraggly lines, no overlaps where there shouldn't be, and that each and every line matches where it's supposed to go. You can use the desktop version of Adobe Illustrator and use the join tool to help you with keeping your paths nice and clean. And you can also take each element and make it a compound path so that it's not just individual lines. And that way it can be moved around and manipulated and resized and scaled and rotated without it messing up in any of your detail lines, moving somewhere that they're not supposed to. Design time is one of the things that I know so many people struggle with. That's why today I'm going to be showing you how to take these 5 icons to create a suite of products to save you on design time. You can reuse and recycle elements that you have created, and it'll make designing new products so easy. You also can purchase sets of scoring embellishments. I have some on my Etsy shop, and there are other makers who have these as well. And then you can go in and create your physical products with those embellishments without having to recreate the wheel every time you're creating a product. And this will help your product line to feel cohesive. It will help things to go together well. It will help you save time, and then scoring them will also help you save time. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to create is we are going to create a scoring pattern out of these 5 elements. So I am going to create a 10-inch circle because that will be my sign backer. And I'm just going to adjust my color for that to show that it's different than the scoring elements. Then what we're going to do is take these 5 different cactus plants and we're going to place them on the circle in various different ways to fill the entire circle so that we have our patterned backer. And this is really easy. All you're going to have to do is copy and paste and then just adjust your elements as you see fit. When you are doing a version where they are just lined up horizontally, all you have to do is just move them around and resize and space things out until you are satisfied with the arrangement. This is the easiest way to do patterns, and it can be really, really quick. Okay, so there is a really simple patterned backer, and I'm also going to show you how to do it in a scattered way, which is how I personally prefer to do my patterns. I like for the designs to go in all different directions so that no matter which way you look at the backer, there's always something facing up. This is obviously personal preference. Not everyone likes for things to be like this. You might think it looks a little bit wonky. Um, I just like the way that this fits in the space. And I feel like you can utilize your space a little bit better because it'll match up according to which way things are facing. I don't like for there to be empty space in my designs, basically. And again, if you need to flip your elements or rotate them, it's super easy to do. And you don't want anything to overlap. But other than that, there's really no requirements for your spacing. So this is how I would create a scattered pattern using a set of scoring icons. All right, the next thing we are going to make is a milestone marker set. So I'm going to start by just creating a 4-inch circle for the outer cut line. I'm going to be using the same scoring embellishments, and I'm going to be using the single line fonts Carpe Diem font. It's just type out of the different milestones that I want to make a marker for. So we've got 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, all the way up to 1 year. And then I'm just going to create outlines for those. And then I'm going to ungroup and then group together each phrase. And for grouping, I'm just doing Control G. And then I'm going to make sure that I have 12 of these 4-inch circles. I like to design on a 19 by 12 so that it fits on the Glowforge bed. Okay, then I'm going to take our text, move those off to the side as well, and then just put our text in each one of those circles. We are using a single line font from the brand Single Line Fonts. And the reason that we do this is because, again, scoring is so much faster than engraving. And these fonts, there are ways to make it so they are a true single line font and they only score once. But the easiest way to work with them, they do score twice. So you just want to adjust your laser settings so that you account for the fact that it's going to go over that twice. It will still be faster. I'm just formatting the text differently for each row, just because I think it gives it a little bit of a fun touch. And then from here, all we have to do is take our scoring designs and put one on each milestone. That's why I like having sets of icons, because as you go through, you can have an entire themed project and it looks like a lot more work went into it than actually did. And then to make it easier, you can just align everything using that vertical align tool, just to make sure it looks nice and clean. And you can adjust the size or the scale of your elements. And I'm just going to repeat them through the remainder of the months. And then when we get to 1 year, instead of just doing one little icon, I'm going to put 2 to make it something a little bit special for having reached that milestone. All that's left to do is to group each little marker. And again, you can do Control G, or you can right click group. Now we have a scattered patterned backer, and we have a milestone set featuring the same theme. To go with our milestone set, we're going to create a baby birth stats. So we're going to start again with our circle, and this time we're going to do 6 inches. And I'm just going to go grab our icons again. And then I'm just going to take 2 of these, similar to what we did at the end of our milestones. And I'm going to put them at the bottom of our birth announcement. And again, you can rotate, transform, adjust your elements however you see fit. Once you have them drawn, the hard part is over, and you can just work them into your designs to make a cohesive suite of items. And we're going to use the same font here. We're going to do date, time, weight, and length for hypothetical weight. And I'm going to place those in the center. This is what parents would fill out in the hospital when they do their newborn photo. And then I'm just going to draw 4 lines to go next to our titles. And then you can just use your align and distribute to make sure everything is nice and neat. And now it's time to add where we would put our name. And obviously, if I were making this as a gift, I would be using the actual name instead of using first name. And I'm using Nekomika Slab and Script from Creative Fabrica. And then as always, when engraving, you want to make sure that your text is welded so that you don't have any of those weird overlaps where the laser skips. So here we are with another item in our suite of products. And we've got our baby birth stat announcement along with our milestones. I went ahead and created some physical items based on the items that we've created together today. First and foremost, I did a scored backer with these little cacti, and I used unicorn spit to stain it green. And then I did Can't Touch This with another little scored element for the added text. We have our really cute little birth announcement sign that they would photograph in the hospital with the baby with all of the details filled in. And then we've got our milestone markers. So we've got from 1 month all the way up to a year. And I did also create a cute little holder for these to use with your photo prop. And you would just place the milestone inside, and it says baby is 1 year old today. And so this has a little hole in the back that you can pop that out and swap them. But I just thought that was like a fun way to kind of elevate your normal little milestones into something a little bit more of a keepsake. So those are files that are going to be included for our all access crafter members. And you will get a copy of everything that we made today, as well as even more. We've got plant stakes. So I used the same scoring embellishments to create a series of 5 designs that have little plant puns along with the scored detail. So we've got looking sharp, let's stick together, I'm rooting for you, totally stuck on you, and you grow girl. Last but not least, I have created a set of cute little keychains with that same design on them. So we've got the same text, the same little icon, but again, a totally different product that you can include with your wristlet bars. You can include in, you know, if you're doing gift bags or things. This is a cute little wristlet that only cost a couple dollars, and then you add on your keychain and it takes it to a whole new level. So with the icons that took me maybe 20 minutes to put together, we've now created an entire line of products with no end in sight, because there are still so many different things that you can make with these. I went ahead and compiled a list for you. It's not in any way an exhaustive list, but it does provide some ideas of things that you can do with your scoring elements that aren't just the projects that we created together today. So obviously you can use your scoring patterns, but those could be for signs, tiered trays, garlands, or other items. You could create ornaments using one or multiple of the icons. You can expand on the suite of baby products with the birth announcements, the milestones, add closet dividers, name sign backers, gift tags, etc. You could even do baby shower decor. You can create keychains like I did here, but you can create all different shapes and sizes. You can do those wristlet keychains. You can create earrings and either do just the score on pre-finished wood, or you can hand paint them for a nice custom touch. You can create card keepers, notebook covers, post-it note holders. You can even create tumblers if you have a Chuck Rotary that can work well with scoring. You can score on cardstock or stationery and make your own greeting cards. You can make gift tags or wine tags, or you can even embellish your own packaging by scoring on the boxes that you are mailing out. So there are so many different ideas for things that you can do with scoring patterns, and I hope that this kind of helped jumpstart your brain and give you some inspiration for creating on your own. Once you are comfortable working with scoring designs, once you know the mechanics behind them, that you want a single line design created in a vector program, and then once it's a compound path, that icon is ready to go, you can move it around, put it on any project you're working on, and really make the most out of the time you spent on designing or the money you spent on purchasing embellishments, so that you have so many different options here. All that you need is a little bit of imagination and access to a design program. You can even import these elements straight into the Glowforge user interface and print them right on one of your blanks without doing any editing to these items. I really hope you found this helpful, and I can't wait to see what you create with your scoring icon set. And if anyone chooses to take my Illustrator for iPad class, I will teach you in depth what I do to create scoring patterns and scoring designs and single line designs on the iPad. You can find it at my website, samanthasdoodles.com, and I'm happy to talk with you and give you any more information if that's something you're interested in.